Good morning, everybody. It's Matt, aka the Lumberjack Landlord. Super excited to be here with you. It is Friday. That means we have our good friend Mike Zuber from More Until the Time. Mike, how's it going, my friend?
Good, man. How are you?
Oh, it's Friday.
No,
Really,
dude, it's
Friday.
Saturday.
It's
someday you will get that joke.
Yeah,
someday.
it's really Friday for me.
It is. It is.
So what I wanted to talk to you about in this first episode was we had an amazing live stream event that you hosted on your channel on Thursday. The three Amigos, myself, Dion, and you.
Yeah.
And,
Well, first, let me say thank you for pushing me to do that. I am technology challenged, and both of you were basically saying, "Get over yourself. It's not that hard. We can figure it out. Stop being a wuss." So thank you for pushing me. It worked. It was very, yeah. Thank you.
Just wasn't sure we could get you to press the right buttons. So.
It's the right buttons in the right order.
In the right sequence. That's right. Exactly. Otherwise, it all self-destructs.
It's just boom.
So the first thing I wanted to talk to you about today was really that session. Talk about it in review. One of the, I think we all have a really healthy respect for each other, and we've all accomplished financial freedom in a different way with a different path, which I love because that's that much more of an impact. It's that many more people that can identify with getting financial freedom.
Agreed.
So what I wanted to talk about was one of the things that I think was, I'm going to call it controversial. One of the most controversial sections of that video was how we qualify tenants.
Yeah, dude, I was floored.
Yes.
I was floored what Dion told us, and it works for him. This is not a slam on Dion by any means. It's just like, I would never consider this. Yeah. What he told us in that deep dive, I'm like, nope, not doing that. That's not for me.
Yeah. If we were going to slam him on something, it would be something like not pulling the equity out of your house at 3.5%.
When we told him and told him and told him.
Right. So
yeah, that's a slam for sure. Yes.
So let's get into it. I think we can kind of ping pong back and forth. You know, we have our criteria that we use for selection of tenants, but obviously we have the level of importance. It's just like a credit score. When you weight something, there's things that you have those base criteria, but in the past, it might be where somebody can explain a situation and say it's X or it's Y or this is how come. I've taken people with low credit scores that had medical debt as an example.
Yeah.
When they could prove that and they said, yeah, I mean, my credit, I have no late payments, but I had a medical issue. I don't hold that against them. I recognize that that's something that they're going to work through over multiple years.
Yeah.
And frankly, it's going to probably make them stay because they saw what a huge pain in the tail it was to leave. So I wanted to kind of ping pong back and forth, talking about kind of that top criteria that we use. I know we use kind of 3-4 criteria each, but wanted to kind of just do that and level of importance to you, walk through those. And since you're the guest, I'll have you go first.
Yeah. So again, I don't think we've actually said, if you haven't seen the video, Dion doesn't look at income, which I mean, I actually asked follow-up questions. I'm like, did I really hear that right? Because sometimes it's vocabulary and, you turn like, again, sometimes the vocabulary, like when you say this, I hear that, right? The sender receiver miscommunicate.
Sure.
So I asked him at one point, Dion, would you take an unemployed person? And he's like, yep, 700 credit score. I'm like, really? Yeah. Oh yeah. All the time. I don't look at income. So it's really interesting where income is not a criteria for Dion, just not on the list. It is my number one criteria. My number one criteria is 3x rent. That's for the people that if it's one person or a husband, wife, or girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, that you've got to be 3x or it's a simple no, right? I have that. And then I go to credit, right? Dion's number one is credit score.
Right.
And, he has great history and story. It clearly works for him. He has a diversified model, which is very interesting. But yeah, I got to tell you, my number one criteria is 3 times rent. And, there was a time in the early 2000s, it was 2.5. We now are in a very inflationary environment where lots of other bills are coming due. It's 3. I think it's been 3 for 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's rule number 1, thou shalt not pass go if it's not 3x.
So quick question on that. So we both do Section 8 or housing authority units. How does, so in many cases you can have the housing authority that they're going to pay $1,500 and the rent is $2,000, and
Mhm.
so the tenant's responsible for 500,
Mhm.
do you basically hold them accountable that their income is 3x what they have to pay?
Yeah, we have their paperwork
Be
up
adjusted?
front. Yeah, it's often referred to as their 30%, which is Section 8 speak. So yeah, it would be their portion of that. And I just be very clear, I have some Section 8 tenants that pay zero. I have some that pay $1. These are folks likely on fixed income. But yeah, I mean, I have some Section 8 tenants. I think the majority of my Section 8 tenants pay less than 50% of the rent. But
Yes.
yeah, they would be responsible for 3x whatever their portion is. Yes.
Now, when it's zero,
Mhm.
is there any sort of an income requirement?
Um, yeah, I want to know where the money's. I want to know where their incomes. They're not going to live for free, right? If somebody has no income coming in, yeah, it's obviously not 3x isn't going to be the problem, but I want to see something, right? Are they caring for a disabled child? Are they caring for this? A parent?
Sure.
What are they doing? I want to know the situation.
Right.
Um, I don't have many. I would guess I have 2 or 3 that pay zero.
Okay.
Um, so there are, and again, it's really funny. A lot of people hear Section 8, they always think low income. It certainly has some low income, but it's obvious. It's for most of my tenants, it's fixed income.
Correct. Yep.
It's something, they're retired or they were injured on the job or they have a disability, something, right? There are other factors. The
Sure.
people that just turn up their nose at Section 8 because they think it's low income, it's wrong. It's a bias that you should probably not have, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Oh, I mean, I can tell you, after having gone through the process, I've seen it. I've seen a lot of folks that are in their 60s
Yeah, exactly.
on assistance, and quite frankly, for me, they're fantastic. Those are fantastic
Mhm.
tenants. They move in. They don't want to make any noise. They just want to live.
They
Somebody's
only
paying
they
their
only
rent
move
for
out. They only move out once.
them.
They stay there a long time.
That's true. So far, we haven't encountered any of that, thankfully.
Yeah,
But
no, it's part of life. I mean, I have it probably happen once a year, maybe.
yep. So yeah, so I would say, so that's your first one is 3x income. I would say probably for me, I would say it's changed. And the most important one for me now
Mhm.
is that they paid, not somebody else paid, that they paid their landlord the last 3 months.
Yeah, you brought that up yesterday. I'm like, I have to tell you. I mean, I actually left a voicemail for my PM yesterday evening asking that question.
Yeah,
I
you have
honestly,
to.
I honestly don't know if we asked that question. We may, and I just may not know, right? Because they do. I have a set of criteria, and then they
Sure.
have others around it.
I can tell you I've never seen a PM ask it
Well,
that I've ever
we're
talked to.
gonna start if that's the case.
It's a great metric because one of the things that we've seen is with the massive uptick in the number of applications that we've had, we do have to try and weed through them to make sure that we're not wasting anybody's time. We're not trying to steal the application fee. We want to be honest with people and say, this is a unit that's worth applying for because you meet our criteria.
Mhm.
That criteria was one that I put in place after I got a tenant that fogged the mirrors on the other items.
Mm.
They were able to do it on the other items, and on that particular one, I got a reference from the landlord that said that they were fantastic. And
Mhm.
then when they moved in within 30 days, they were not fantastic. And then come to find
Yeah,
out, I knew somebody that knew somebody that knew somebody that knew him, and they were like, he was like, he could not get them out of their house fast enough, and he flat out lied.
yeah,
It's coming back to him. He's gonna
yeah.
get his by somebody else
Oh
someday.
yeah.
It always happens like that. So
I
other landlords.
yeah, so I've had that happen to me a couple of times over the last 2 decades. I actually don't even value
I
landlord
don't do them
references.
anymore. That was the last time I ever did a check. Number one, and number two is that's what I said. What is the way that I can come up with this? Because I wanted to make sure. So many of the programs that came out during the pandemic were assistance programs. They weren't forever programs.
No, that's what people are finding out right now, boy.
Correct. And so now I wanted to make sure that they didn't actually have their rent paid by assistance because I needed to see that they were paying that rent.
Mhm.
And if they weren't paying that rent, why they weren't paying that rent. It's a conversation. We
Agreed.
need to make sure. So for me, the biggest, most important one to me is, okay, show 3 months payments to your last landlord.
Yeah, and again, I thought that was a great find.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask my team if that's on the list. If it's not, we'll put it on the list. And then the last one we both talked about is no evictions ever.
Yes.
Right. I think that was a big deal for all three of us. I think Dion even
Yeah.
said, hey, if you had an eviction in 1986, no game. Dion's, if I remember the story, was like, hey, if you've been through it once as a tenant, you know what levers you can pull to delay.
Yep.
And he's right. Yeah, that's a non-starter and that's one of the problems going on now is if you get got in a situation and you get evicted, it really does you basically get brought to the landlord's not doing the job, and you're sort of down selected to almost slumlords, which is horrible. So it's tough.
I actually, I will be doing a video on my channel in the next couple of weeks. I had a tenant appeal the decision to the state Supreme Court for eviction.
Oh, nice. I don't know that I've ever had that happen. That's a new one.
It's a delay tactic.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, you obviously know there's just probably sites out there telling people all the, do's and don'ts to delay as long as possible. Again, you're not going to stop it, but for them, it's, hey, if I can save a month's rent somewhere, that's what they're trying to do.
She has not paid rent out of her pocket in 26 months.
That's because of these freaking programs have told people that all you have to do is ask and stuff happened. That time's over.
Yep.
And if you got addicted, if you inflated your lifestyle because somebody else has been paying your rent, Uncle Sam pays your rent, you inflated your lifestyle, Uncle Sam's done.
Yep.
That's why you're going to have all these stimulus ballers in trouble.
It's going to, for sure. Last topic I wanted to touch on was credit score.
Yeah. So Dion really anchored on that one. For me, it's a double check. It's certainly not the most important.
Agreed.
It's probably not even number 2. It's on the list. I have one. For me, it's 700. Really, the thing I do at this point is no exceptions, right? If you're 698, it's a no. In the past, I've met exceptions for medical. That was a different time. That was early 2000s when it was hard. Today, the rental market is so hot. I have affordable rentals, which are like unicorns.
Yeah.
So I have a tenant box and I don't make exceptions today. And I haven't had a vacancy more than 3 days in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. I think it's important too, this is kind of a quick landlord note for folks. You're going to need to have thick skin. We get nasty emails all the time after we deny people. And the fact
I don't. I don't.
And that's a big check you write on the first of the month though, bro.
But I don't.
Well, worth it. Well, worth it in some cases.
Yeah.
But for the self-managing landlords out there, it's something you need to be aware
you are
of.
going to get some. Yeah.
You're going to get some really nasty grams. And so what Mike's done is brilliant in creating a process that his team follows to a T, no exception.
No exceptions.
And that is how a real business, frankly speaking, is run.
Yeah, if you have one exception, you don't have a process. No
correct.
Exceptions.
And so from our perspective, we self-managing, we take into account the fact that we might be getting 4 people that are friends into the group, and that 3 of them have 720 and aboves, and one of them has a 660. In that particular case, we'll actually say, hey, just so you're aware, and we say, we're going to share with you the credit scores because it's important, because if this person disqualifies themselves, you are going to be on the hook because you're signing a lease where you are joint and severally liable.
Yes.
And so
that's a great move on your part.
Well, we make that very clear to people. And when you're self-managing, this can be the biggest nightmare, because if you have one person that's a problem, you can't evict one. You have to evict all.
And you got to make that right up front. Yeah.
We're very honest about that. And this is where, certainly in states that allow the roommate thing and roommate agreements and things like that, very different story. In our state, that's a much different thing. So for us, and I don't want to have to hassle with all the problems of one person. I want it being a group of people that already know each other, that are going to largely hold each other accountable because they know each other. They're friends.
Yeah. Peer pressure is an amazing thing.
Peer pressure is a wonderful thing. And so if you are self-managing, there are so many fish in the sea out there right now when you're getting those rental applications back. We use those 3 criteria to just go from 100 down to 20 or 15.
Yeah. Again, it's supply and demand today, right? Yeah.
That's what we have.
That's one of the things that's going on in housing today. Housing is unaffordable. We got, rates are going up again today because of the jobs number we'll talk about in video 3, but rents are going to follow. Rents lag.
Yes.
It's tough.
The people that have applied 9 times to a unit or 9 times to different units, I feel bad for them. But at the same time, too, I can't pick them over somebody else that's far more qualified.
No.
It's the way it goes. That's life. So I wanted to say that to encourage other landlords. I see it. I self-manage. I rent my own units. I get it. I get that you feel like there's a little bit of that twinge inside you because we want to help everybody. But at the end of the day, you have to be consistent, do what's right for the business, and recognize, and this is the way I've always viewed it, I never fired anybody that didn't deserve it.
Oh, I consider that the fact they fought. Well,
if I'm firing you, you earned it.
Yeah, I was going to say that when you get fired, you earn it, but I've been through layoffs and they didn't earn layoffs.
Oh, absolutely not.
Different.
Because very often it's like that picture in time of the spreadsheet, right? But if you got fired, you likely earned it.
Yeah, no. If I fired you, you earned it. There's no question. I gave you 1 and sometimes 2 chances. If you got fired by me, which some people had, you earned it for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Mike, where can everybody find you, my friend?
One rental at a time, and we do a Saturday live stream at 8 a.m. that I thoroughly enjoy. Check it out. It's 60 minutes, not 3 hours. So get on early, ask questions early. Let's have some fun.
You're just more efficient at answering the questions, and you have students that you have to take care of afterwards.
Yeah, I just go for 60 minutes. That's all I got. That's all I got.
Awesome.
I couldn't go for 3 hours.
Mike, thanks so much. As I always say, we like to create great content for you. Hit that like button and make sure you subscribe, and we'll be back in segment 2 with a deal update. Thanks, Mike. Nice. We'll see you in segment 2.